The US election also again demonstrates the culpability of most of the media. They do not report the truth, they hide from it. They deny reality because they don't like it, and then they're surprised when it hits them in the face.
And think about this. She did this in 2 months.
Yeah, no.
She did this in 2 months.
She left it all on the field. Yes, she
look,
did.
she, you know, everybody can always say, oh, she should have done this, she should have done this, She did what she did. She was everywhere. She talked to everybody. And people didn't come out. I don't know why, and it doesn't even matter. He's now the president. I'm still not going to say his name. That's not going to change.
The threats to do mass deportation and a violent start to his dictatorship on day one, and you name it.
And we have the same dynamic here in Australia. The Green left media demonises Trump. It rails against him, as they have done for a decade. They don't report his positives. They boost his opponents. And then when real people get to cast real votes, they seemed shocked and sullen.
So I have to ask you the hard question first. Jeff Bleich, is it over for Kamala Harris?
I think it most likely is.
The ABC last night tried to keep reality at bay, not calling the election till 4 hours after Tom Connell called it first here on Sky News.
We can now say that Donald Trump is the next president of the United States. The Associated Press now projecting that Donald Trump has won the state of Wisconsin, one that we were waiting for, and that, of course, pushes him beyond the 270 Electoral College votes needed to win. So Kamala Harris defeated in her bid to keep the White House under Democratic Party control, and the poppers will now crack. Andy, it did seem inevitable, but Donald Trump is the next president, the 47th president of the United States.
I'm surprised they weren't all wearing black and playing Wagner. The trouble is that because of their political or ideological bias, the ABC misleads its audiences. I mean, there's a good chance ABC regulars were surprised by the result. Maybe they weren't even aware that the polling looked very prospective for Donald Trump, because they were fed distorted information. I mean, listen to what they said about one outlier poll in the small Republican state of Iowa on the eve of the election.
Is it a poll that is going to be a sort of predictor of what might happen? If accurate, it would reshape the overall result.
But if Kamala Harris wins Iowa, she'll therefore almost certainly win Michigan and Wisconsin, in which case she would be elected president almost certainly if those numbers hold.
I mean, wow. For the record, Trump won Iowa by about 13 percentage points. These people believe what they want to believe, don't they? But their job is to give audiences an insight into reality. They failed badly. But then for some of them, it seems this was not really an election between two major parties, but a visceral contest between good and evil.
He's very much building a campaign based on fear. It's fear of the enemy within. It's fear of so-called Venezuelan gangs who are armed with military-grade weapons. It's fear of, this country being swamped. It's fear of the future versus Kamala Harris is very much building something looking at the future and hope. And so to almost use a pun, the question is, will fear trump hope?
Fear versus hope. Listen to him. What planet is he on? Your tax dollars sent that bloke to Washington. And listen to him, John Lyons, after Trump won last night. He seems to think this is a disaster for every nation on the planet.
All of the bitterness of having had an election stolen from him, in his view, he's now back in power. He thought, the elites thought he was down and out. He's back in there now. So everything he's wanted to do, this is the last chance saloon now. So I think we're in for a trade war with China. Ukraine, tonight, Ukraine will be devastated by this result. I think it's devastating news, as it is for Ukraine, for the Palestinians as well, and the Lebanese.
On the contrary, there is a strong case to believe the return of Trump provides hope for peace through strength in the Middle East and perhaps even in Ukraine. Trump's return should be bad news for Russia, for China, for Iran, for Hamas and Hezbollah. And apparently it's bad news for the ABC too.